We spend a lot of time on this show trying to unravel the really big, knotty complications of the world. We look at macroeconomics, geopolitical history, the physics of black holes. But I was looking at the stack of research for today, and I realized we rarely stop to look at the tools we use to do that unpacking.
Right. You mean language itself.
Exactly. The invisible architecture.
Yeah.
Specifically, the words we use on total autopilot.
Yeah.
And today, for this deep dive, we are zooming in on arguably the most common throwaway word in the English language.
Yeah.
A word you have probably said 5 times today without a single neuron firing to analyze it. We are talking about the word goodbye.
It's funny you call it a throwaway word because historically it was anything but.
Right.
If you dig into the etymology, which is our mission today, you find that goodbye is actually a really heavy, significant, and honestly somewhat chaotic collision of religious history and human laziness.
That is exactly the vibe I got from the reading. It's this battle between the desire to offer a sincere blessing and the desire to just get out the door faster.
Yeah. Yeah, efficiency usually wins.
It really does. But before we get to the history, I want to start with a logic puzzle that completely tricked me. Because when I look at standard English greetings, there is a very obvious pattern.
The good pattern.
Yes, the good pattern. It's an algorithmic set. We have good morning, we have good afternoon, good evening.
Good night.
And finally, good night.
Right.
Grammatically, these are identical. You have the adjective good, modifying a noun that denotes a specific time of day or event.
And that creates a strong cognitive bias. Your brain sees the pattern and just assumes goodbye is the final piece of the set.
Precisely. So for years, I just assumed bye was some archaic noun, like maybe an Old English word for a journey or a path or a departure. So when I say goodbye, I'm effectively saying have a good journey.
Yeah.
It makes total sense. It perfectly fits the data set.
It does fit, and that is why it's such a perfect linguistic trap, because that assumption is almost 100% wrong.
Which blew my mind.
Bye isn't a noun. It isn't a time of day. And here is the kicker that usually surprises people. The good in goodbye didn't start out as good either.
This is where this story gets wild for me. Because if it wasn't good, then the sentiment we are expressing today is fundamentally different from what we think it is.
Exactly.
We aren't wishing someone well. We are doing something else entirely.
To understand what we are actually doing, we have to wind the clock back about 600 or 700 years.
Yeah.
If you were standing in a muddy street in London in the 14th century and you were parting ways with a friend, you wouldn't just chirp goodbye.
Right.
You would look them in the eye and say a full 4-word phrase.
God be with you.
That is the source code. God be with you.
See, that hits differently. That isn't casual. That is a plea.
Well, context is everything here. In the 14th century, travel wasn't just an inconvenience, it was life-threatening. If you were leaving your village, you were facing bandits, disease, exposure to the elements. You might genuinely never see that person again.
Wow, yeah.
So God be with you wasn't a social pleasantry. It was a literal prayer for survival.
It's invocation of divine protection. Like, I am putting a force field of God around you because you are walking to the next town.
Exactly. It had real weight. But here's where that battle of efficiency comes in.
The human laziness factor.
Right. Humans, by nature, are efficient communicators. We don't like saying 4 distinct words when 1 or 2 sounds will do the job perfectly well.
We act like water flowing downhill. We just find the path of least resistance. I mean, look at how we text today. But I guess I'm surprised that we would be willing to mutilate a prayer just to save a second of breath.
Well, nothing is sacred when it comes to phonetic erosion.
Phonetic erosion, I like that term.
Over the centuries, that 4-word phrase, God be with you, it just started to get chewed up. The consonants got softer. The vowels started to merge together. It's a linguistic process called reduction.
And we can actually track this car crash of a phrase through the written record, which is amazing. The research for this deep dive highlights a specific turning point in the mid-16th century where we see the transition happening in real time.
Yes, the 1500s are really where the action is. This is the era where the phrase is caught right in the middle of its metamorphosis. The Oxford English Dictionary points to a letter from 1575 as the first printed instance of a shortened form.
This letter is honestly my favorite part of the source material. It was written by an English scholar named Gabriel Harvey.
Right.
And reading it, you get this sense that he was a guy who just loved playing with language. He wasn't just writing a boring update. he was being actively witty.
He was a Cambridge scholar, very much part of the intelligentsia at the time. And in this letter, he wrote, and I quote, "And then to requite your gallant of God-wise, I re-give you a pottle of howdies."
There is so much to unpack in that one sentence. First off, God-wise, spelled Godbwys. It looks like a typo, but you can literally hear the bridge between the two eras. It's not quite goodbye, but it's definitely not God be with you anymore. It's just a slur.
It's the intermediate species. He has compressed God be with you into a single pluralized noun, a godway.
Right.
But look at the metaphor he uses alongside it. He talks about a gallon of them.
A gallon.
Right, a gallon. And he says he wants to requite, meaning to reciprocate, with a pottle of howdies.
I had to look this up because I desperately want to bring pottle back into circulation. A pottle is exactly half a gallon, right?
Correct. So the joke he is making is mathematical.
Yeah.
He is saying, you sent me a gallon of farewell, so I am sending you back a half gallon of greetings. It's a very specific, quantitative way to describe a conversation.
But the real nugget here, the thing that made me stop and circle the page, is that word howdies.
Yes, the side quest.
Because I think most modern Americans, we associate howdy with cowboy culture. It feels very Western, very rural. But here is a Cambridge scholar in 1575 using it in a formal letter.
It shows that howdy is an American slang in origin. It's a 16th century English contraction.
Wow.
And it proves your point about efficiency perfectly. Just as God be with you collapses into goodbye, the phrase how do you do collapses into howdy.
How do ye? Howdy. It's the exact same mechanism. We take a polite inquiry or a blessing, and we put it in a hydraulic press until it's just 2 syllables.
It really highlights that this wasn't just happening to one specific word. The entire language was speeding up. It was shedding weight. But with goodbye, the transition was particularly messy. It wasn't a clean jump from A to B.
No, the list of spelling variations in the research notes is absolutely chaotic.
Yeah.
It looks like people were just sounding it out phonetically and hoping for the best.
That is effectively what they were doing. Standardized spelling wasn't really a thing yet.
I want to try to say a few of these just to give you, the listener, a sense of the mouthfeel of the 1600s. You had God be you, which sounds almost like you've had a few too many ales at the tavern. God be you.
Drags, doesn't it? It hasn't snapped shut yet.
Then there is God buoye. Buoye, which looks on the page like God buoy, like a floating marker in the ocean.
Or it suggests a French influence in the pronunciation of the vowels. Bouye.
And then my personal favorite disaster, good, B-W-Y. It's just consonants and apostrophes. It looks like a corrupt file on a hard drive.
That one is fascinating because it shows the speaker is trying to keep the with ye part, but they literally can't be bothered to articulate the vowels. It is pure efficiency.
Yeah.
And this confusion wasn't limited to the common folk either. The sources mention that even Shakespeare, the man who invented a huge chunk of our vocabulary, he couldn't settle on a single spelling.
That honestly makes me feel better about my own writing. If the bard is confused, I think I'm allowed to be confused.
Well, across the first folio in plays like Othello or Troilus and Cressida, you see different variations used. Sometimes it's God be was you, sometimes it's closer to God by you. It suggests that even in his head, or at least in the typesetter's heads, the word was still very much in flux. It hadn't hardened into concrete yet.
But this brings us to the good part of the word. Because in all those examples, God boy, the first syllable is still clearly God. We are still actively invoking the deity.
Right.
But today, we say goodbye. G-O-O-D. When did God get demoted to good?
This is the second half of the transformation. We had the contraction, which gave us the sound, but then we had the semantic shift. And this is where that pattern matching we talked about at the beginning comes back to haunt us.
The good morning peer pressure.
Exactly. Linguists call this influence by analogy. Imagine you are an English speaker in the 17th century. You say good day. You say good morrow. You say good even.
Right.
Those phrases had been established since the 1200s. They were the dominant structural pattern for greetings.
So God boy was the odd one out. It didn't rhyme. It didn't match the set.
And the human brain craves symmetry. So gradually, speakers started to conflate the God in the farewell with the good in the other greetings. It sounded similar enough, God, good, that the gravity of the other phrases just pulled God over the line.
That is fascinating. We essentially auto-corrected reality. We sacrificed the entire core meaning of the word just to make it fit the rhyme scheme of our day.
And in doing so, we triggered a massive cultural shift. We triggered the secularization of the phrase.
Right, because good is secular, God is religious. Once you make that swap, you have completely stripped the divinity out of the departure.
By the early 1700s, Goodbye starts appearing in writing in its modern, secular form. The blessing was just gone. It became a purely social sign-off. And what is really telling about this is that if you look at our neighbors, they didn't do this.
This was the part of the deep dive that made me realize English is kind of the weirdo in the room. I took French in high school, so I know adieu, and I know a little Spanish, adios. Let's break those down. Adieu. Dios is God. Dios is God.
Literally, to God, I commend you to God.
So when a French person says goodbye, the religion is still right there on the surface. They haven't hidden it at all.
It is entirely transparent. Adios is an explicit religious statement, even if people use it casually today. But in English, we buried the lead.
Yeah. We camouflaged God inside good. So we are arguably the most secular of the bunch, or at least the most deceptive about it.
It's almost like a linguistic heist. We stole the word, filed off the serial numbers, painted it a different color, and now we use it to hang up on telemarketers.
It raises an interesting question about why English speakers were so prone to this. Was it just the phonetic similarity to good day? Or was there a deeper cultural shift, maybe a Protestant move toward less overt public blessings?
Right.
The sources for today mostly stick to the analogy theory, but it's definitely worth noting that English is unique in how thoroughly it erased the origin.
It really makes me wonder what we are losing right now. If we can turn a sincere prayer into a throwaway word over the course of 300 years, what are we currently doing that will completely confuse the historians of the year 2300?
Oh, we're doing it constantly. Language is always dissolving and rebuilding itself. Think about the phrase, I am going to.
Right, gonna. It's fully assimilated. Or, I want to becoming wanna. But think about the digital realm. We use acronyms like actual words. LOL, FOMO. Or we verb nouns. I'll Google it. Friend him.
Do you think in 300 years, people will look at the word Google and think it was the name of a deity of knowledge?
It is entirely possible. Just like we forgot by means God, they might completely forget Google was a tech company. They might think I'll Google it was a modern prayer for information.
That is a terrifying thought. We are the Gabriel Harveys of the future. We're the ones messing up the documentation for the next generation.
I wouldn't say we are messing it up. We're just evolving it. That is the battle of efficiency winning again. We want speed. We want utility. If a word is too clunky, we sand it down. God be with you is just too clunky for a busy commercial society, so we sanded it down to bar.
It really changes the way I'm going to end this conversation. Usually I just wave and sign off. But now, knowing what I know, goodbye feels heavy. It feels like I'm holding a little historical artifact.
It connects you directly to those 14th century travelers. Every time you say it, you are unknowingly echoing a 600-year-old blessing.
So let's recap this journey before we let everyone go.
Sure.
We started with the assumption that goodbye matches good morning. We found out that is a total lie.
A complete fabrication.
We went back to the 1300s to find God be with you, which was a vital prayer for protection against bandits and death on the road.
A necessary survival tool.
Then, driven by laziness,
Yeah.
efficiency.
Efficiency.
We watched it get crunched in the 1500s into God why. We saw Gabriel Harvey trading gallons of them for bottles of
The
howdies.
chaotic teenage years of the word.
And finally, the peer pressure of good morning forced God to become good, stripping the religion out of it entirely and leaving us with the secular goodbye of the 1700s.
While our French and Spanish neighbors kept the God front and center.
It is a wild ride for two tiny syllables. And it makes me think, if language evolves based on what sounds similar, like God becoming good, are there words we are saying right now that we are mishearing? Are we the ones currently midway through a shift that we can't even see?
Almost certainly. We are always in the middle of the river. We just don't notice the current until we look back upstream.
Well, on that existential note, I think it is time to wrap up.
Yeah.
This has been a fascinating deep dive into the hidden history of a farewell.
It certainly has. I don't think I'll ever be able to say it casually again.
Me neither. I'm going to be thinking about bottles and gallons for the rest of the week. So thank you for listening. We hope you found this, well, I won't say good because that's loaded now.
Right.
We hope you found this illuminating.
And we wish you a safe journey. In the old sense of the word.
Exactly. So to requite your time listening, we offer you a pottle of gratitude. And in the spirit of 1575, God boy.